Good. Behind him, Song Mingsong seemed even more excited than Song Kai himself, subconsciously uttering his approval, and at the same time, he silently added another orange quality enslavement component to his speculations about the equipment on his grandson's flagship. Song Kai repeated his earlier actions, and soon succeeded in enslaving another third-ranked Peak Soul Spirit clansman. It wasn't until after this that the grandfather and grandson duo turned their attention back to the 100-meter God-tempering fruit tree that was deeper inside. Looking at the 100-meter-tall fruit tree with thorns about the length of a rice grain as well as the 8 green-skinned fruits hanging from it, Song Chi's face showed a look of struggle. "Grandpa, do we just pick them?" He instinctively felt it was a waste, as the effect of the green-skinned divine tempering fruits was far less than that of the mature red-skinned ones. Upon hearing this, Song Mingsong shook his head repeatedly. "No, no, no, let's wait until they're ripe." Song Kai was puzzled, but looking at this, waiting for the divine tempering fruits to fully mature would take at least 1,000 years. How can we wait? Before he could finish, a flash of inspiration struck Song Chi's mind as he thought of a special component made for ships. Secret Realm Entrance Binder. "Grandpa, are you thinking of using the Secret Realm Entrance Binder component to transplant this God-tempering fruit tree into the Dragon Blood Mystic Realm?" Clap, clap, clap. Applause rang out as Song Mingsong smiled and gave a thumbs up. Song Kai narrowed his eyes, thinking that the idea was indeed a good one with a not-so-low chance of being feasible. The key point was that if they really could transplant the God-tempering fruit tree into the Dragon Blood Mystic Realm, then their gains from this trip would rise several levels more. After all, divine tempering fruits were just consumable items that were gone once used, while the God-tempering fruit tree could continuously produce divine tempering fruits, making the value of the two very clear. Moreover, if it was successfully transplanted into the mystic realm, they could take advantage of the realm's time acceleration to greatly shorten the long growth and maturation cycle, maximizing the value of the God-tempering fruit tree. However, as good as the idea was, the key question remained: could the transplant be successful? It was well known that the various plants of Starry Sea, which were worth a fortune, were extremely strict about their growing environments. Otherwise, they would have been cultivated in large quantities, and their value would have decreased over time. Although the God-tempering fruit tree, as a plant that could grow on many Starry Sea floating lands, had a higher success rate for transplantation compared to other plants, this did not mean it could adapt to the environment of the Dragon Blood Mystic Realm. After all, the native environments inside mystic realms were not something that ordinary Starry Sea plants could adapt to, and to say that more than 99% could not was not an exaggeration. The Dragon Blood Mystic Realm was naturally no exception. Seeing the doubt and skepticism emerging in Song Chi's eyes, Song Mingsong's face revealed a mysterious smile. Then, his brow shone with light, and a clump of sand emitting a rich purple light flew out from his ancestral torch. At the same time, he said softly, "If we were to transplant it directly, the failure rate would indeed be very high, and it could even cause the remaining 8 divine tempering fruits on the tree to wither instantly. However, if we transplant it using this item, combined with the God-tempering fruit tree's relatively low environmental requirements, the success rate is not small." With that, he placed the clump of purple light-emitting sand in front of Song Kai. Song Chi's eyes focused, and as the attributes of the unknown sand became clear, a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. Strange object. Immortal Domain Spirit Soil, intermediate rank. Quality: purple. Convertible. 3 mu of intermediate rank spirit fields. Note: a spirit field of the ancient immortal domain civilization by chance received a dose of special energy nourishment for thousands of years. Over a long period of conversions, it ultimately transformed into a unique Starry Sea oddity. When Song Kai saw the words, "Ancient Immortal Domain Civilization," he only felt a bit surprised, but as soon as he read the words, "Intermediate Spirit Field," a strong sense of familiarity instinctively emerged in his mind. Spirit fields and such were often mentioned in the cultivation novels of his previous life, Not only could they nurture higher levels of spirit value, they also improved the survival rate and yield of plants to varying degrees. While he was pondering this, Song Mingsong had already stepped forward toward the inside of the divine tempering fruit tree. With a light wave of his right hand, the spirit earth in his hand floated out and finally formed a 3-acre spirit field beneath the divine tempering fruit tree. Under the influence of the intermediate spirit field, emanating a white glow of vitality, one could feel that the vitality permeating the entire divine tempering fruit tree seemed to grow denser, and even the trunk of the tree trembled lightly as if celebrating. Standing behind his grandfather, Song Chi's gaze was still fixed on the spirit field below when suddenly another attribute panel emerged before his eyes. Name: Intermediate Spirit Field. Area: 3 acres. Quality: Purple. Effect: Growth speed increased by 20%, yield increased by 20%, survival rate increased by 20%. Note: Originating from the Immortal Domain civilization, it has an immensely beneficial effect on various plants from the Starry Sea. After reading this attribute panel, Song Chi's eyes sparkled. According to the description in the effects section, it seemed that if the transplantation was successful, the God-tempering fruit tree might go from bearing 20 fruits every 6,000 years to bearing 24 fruits every 4,800 years, which seemed quite remarkable. Even if it was planted together with the dragon blood fruit trees, it could also bolster the 10 dragon blood fruit trees by association. Thinking about the dragon blood fruit trees, Song Kai suddenly thought of something, his smile fading as he asked with a hint of confusion. "Grandfather, since you have this spirit soil from the Immortal Domain, why haven't you used it on those dragon blood fruit trees in the dragon blood mystic realm?" As if he had anticipated this question, Song Mingsong's response was swift. "Those 10 dragon blood fruit trees are more like a small garden of dragon blood fruit trees, and this clump of spirit soil cannot sustain its enhancement for all 10 trees indefinitely. If it were placed around them, over time, this spirit soil would likely be exhausted of its spiritual mechanism, thereby degrading from a strange object to ordinary soil." Upon hearing this explanation, Song Kai had a moment of realization. In simple terms, it was a matter of the fertility of farmland. The fertility of this intermediate spirit field was limited, insufficient to support the cultivation of 10 dragon blood fruit trees. Otherwise it might exhaust the fertility, transforming from rich soil to mere sandy loam. Thinking this, under the guidance of Song Mingsong, the two quickly set to work, carefully digging under the earth below the divine tempering fruit tree. After about tens of minutes of busy work, just as the soil under the divine tempering fruit tree was almost excavated, Song Mingsong quickly filled it back in with the spirit soil from the spirit field. Having completed these tasks, Song Kai then summoned the Kang Chong and, under his control, a gentle traction force began to act on the divine tempering fruit tree below. He dared not to use a strong traction force, but increased it from weak to strong, until the divine tempering fruit tree was slowly pulled up from the ground. To the side, Song Mingsong, who had been prepared, also activated the Furious Lion from within the ancestral torch, sending out intense energy fluctuations before a huge vortex entrance to a secret realm materialized. It was through the secret realm entrance binder component installed on the Furious Lion that the entrance to the Dragon Blood Mystic Realm was opened. Tens of minutes later, the cave space was empty of the two figures. Within the Dragon Blood Mystic Realm, under the pull of the traction beam, both torch warships and the 100-meter-high God tempering fruit tree swiftly navigated through the broken floating land fragments, seeking a suitable transplantation spot. From the warship's communication, Song Chi's voice sounded. "Grandfather, how did you get hold of this spirit soil from the Immortal Domain? Looking at our immortal puppet tower and now this spirit soil, it seems both come from that ancient Immortal Domain civilization. Is there a connection?" After much contemplation, Song Kai decided to voice this question, which he was extremely curious about. He had always harbored a great interest and curiosity in the Immortal Domain civilization behind Zhu Tian Ruins Market. Hearing Song Chi's question, Song Mingsong's gaze shifted. looking beyond the projection screen toward the secret realm's floating land fragment. His eyes suddenly deepened, as if he was recalling the past. After a long while, he finally began to explain in detail. "You're right in your thinking. The family's immortal puppet tower and this batch of immortal domain spirit soil are indeed connected. They both come from the same floating land fragment." "Floating land fragment?" Song Kai asked again, puzzled. However, this was not a slip of the tongue on Song Mingsong's part. "That's right, a floating land fragment, a fragment even larger than an ordinary third-rank life floating land," he said with conviction, and then continued. "The reason it's called a fragment is that many torch ship captains who have entered this floating land have personally witnessed the edge where a colossal cut spans millions of kilometers, extremely smooth." Hearing this, Song Chi's eyes widened, and his gaze involuntarily drifted downward. The floating land in the Dragon Blood Mystic Realm was also a collapsed fragment, and according to what his grandfather had said earlier, such damage could only have been caused by the aftermath of a fight between fifth-rank life forms of the Starry Sea. Yet even so, the diameter of the destruction below was merely tens of thousands of kilometers. Song Chi's mind buzzed, unable even to imagine the size of the creatures capable of causing such terrifying might. Keep in mind, a fifth-rank unit of the Starry Sea is only 10,000 meters. Millions of kilometers, what kind of concept is that? Before he could think further, Song Mingsong continued. "It is hypothesized that the fragment most likely originates from the ancient immortal domain civilization, a shattered corner of a continent from that ancient time, and both the family's immortal puppet tower and the immortal domain spirit soil in grandfather's hands came from that fragment." Song Kai was still trying to wrap his head around this when he collected himself and asked another question. "A mere shattered fragment with a diameter of millions of kilometers, how big must the original floating land of the Starry Sea be that it belonged to? Fourth rank? Or fifth rank?" Song Mingsong shook his head. "The original source's rejection rule power of that fragment is terrifying. Forget fourth or fifth rank life forms. Even when Chengxing Grand Duke himself took action, he couldn't inflict the slightest damage to the remaining shield of the fragment. Based on the clan elder's conjecture, the original body of the floating land is at least a sixth-rank life floating land." Hiss. Song Kai didn't realize how many times he had gasped in such a short period, but he couldn't help it. His grandfather's words were simply too astonishing. A sixth-rank Starry Sea floating land. What kind of existence was that? Just the fifth-rank Dragonspine continent already spans more than 10 light-years in diameter. Sixth rank. Shaking his head, not delving further into the answer to this question, Song Kai deftly changed the subject to another key point his grandfather had mentioned. "Since even Chengxing Grand Duke couldn't tear through the remaining shield of the fragment, how did you all manage to get inside? Where exactly is this fragment? Why have I never heard a whisper about it on the family's public channels?" Song Mingsong smiled. "This mysterious floating land fragment is located in the southern dusk star domain of the Principality. It's been enveloped in a fragment shield filled with rule power all year round, waning only once every 100 to 200 years. And taking advantage of this opportunity, the Level 5 and Level 6 entities of the Principality will act together to open a temporary passage for the torch ship captains to enter and explore. As for the news of this fragment, it is mostly circulated among the higher echelons of the Principality. Your grandfather only happened to obtain a chance to enter, which is how I came to know all this." Suddenly enlightened, Song Kai now had a clear understanding of the basic situation regarding that floating land fragment. The Dusk Star Domain, huh? His gaze shifted. The Dusk Star Domain was the southernmost star domain of Chengxing Principality. Although its development wasn't as long established as Dingai Star Domain, it was close to 2,000 years old. If given the chance, he definitely wanted to check it out. Details about the ancient immortal domain civilization were of great interest to him. Just when was the last time the fragment opened? Just as this thought surfaced, his grandfather's voice came through once more. "Your grandfather entered it 130 years ago. Back then desperate for resources to push towards the third rank, so I took a gamble and tried. Calculating the time, the next weakening phase should not be far off. Work hard to enhance the combat power of your flagship. If all goes well, you might have a chance to seek fortune within it. In over 1,000 years, that fragment has yielded multiple red epic quality strange objects, and it's even rumored to have produced a starry sea oddity beyond the red epic quality once. Hearing the words, beyond red curios, Song Chi's heart stirred. Grandfather, what quality is beyond red epic? Information on high-level starry sea oddities and ship components was tightly locked down, and to date, he had not heard of any starry sea oddities or ship components beyond red epic quality, hence his keen curiosity. In the communication projection, Song Mingsong glanced at his grandson. Originally planning to rebuke him slightly, but then realizing that his grandson's flagship probably already possessed an orange glory quality component, it didn't seem too far-fetched for him to aspire higher. He still decided to utter two words strongly. Silver. He etched these two words deep into his heart. Song Kai narrowed his eyes just as his grandfather began to speak again. However, the conversation did not continue on the previous topic. Little Kai, how about transplanting it in that valley? The valley Song Mingsong was pointing to was a serene one with mountains and water in the fragment of floating land below, far from the grove of dragon blood trees, and without any other spiritual plants nearby, making it exceptionally suitable for planting the God-tempering fruit tree. Without giving a direct response, Song Kai thought for a while and finally asked tentatively. Grandpa, this spirit earth that has been transformed from Lingzi, can you actively replenish its spiritual mechanism and life force with some specific kind of resource? Song Mingsong pondered for a moment before shaking his head. Although this spirit earth is rich with the aura of floating land origin, I have tried many methods over the years and yet have never been able to actively infuse floating land origin into it. However, an energy ore that came with the initial purchase of this spirit earth does have an effect, but unfortunately, that kind of ore seems to be an exclusive mineral of the immortal domain civilization. Apart from within that floating land fragment, there is no other way to reliably produce it. At these last words, Song Chi's eyes, which were squinting tightly, suddenly brightened and he hurried to Kong Chong's storage room. Is it this kind of stone? He held out his hand, revealing two lustrous stones in his palm. These two lustrous stones were none other than the spirit stones commonly used by cultivators on the primordial continent. It seemed only those cultivators could use this item, so Song Kai didn't get too many, just a few samples he had taken from Zhou Ping. Sure enough, upon seeing the two spirit stones, Song Mingsong's eyes quickly gleamed with light. Little Kai, where did you get these from? Can we ensure a stable output or purchase them later? Although he didn't answer, the tone of Song Mingsong's voice already gave Song Kai his answer. He nodded quickly. This thing is called a spirit stone. I obtained it unexpectedly at the ruins market. However, the creature that offered the spirit stone, like me, is also one of the market's patrons. If nothing goes wrong, it is possible to buy them steadily from him. Hearing this, Song Mingsong naturally was overjoyed. Now, with this development, they had to replan the subsequent planting. After discussing for several minutes again, they finally decided to plant the God-tempering fruit tree together with the 10 dragon blood trees. On the edge of the wasteland of the floating land fragment, in the grove of dragon blood trees. After being busy for a while, the two finally transplanted the God-tempering fruit tree right in the center of the 10 dragon blood trees. Compared to the dragon blood trees, which were only a dozen meters high, the 100-meter-tall God-tempering fruit tree was so conspicuous. However, at that moment, the two of them were obviously not concerned with this detail. Their gaze was fixed on the God-tempering fruit tree in front of them, fearing that it would react negatively at any second. Fortunately, the worst-case scenario did not occur. The ground glowed with a covering of 3 mu of intermediate-rank spirit earth that included both the God-tempering fruit tree and the 10 dragon blood trees, the soil rich in spiritual mechanism and life force constantly nourishing the 11 spiritual plants. Perhaps it was precisely because of this support from the spirit earth that the god-tempering fruit tree showed no signs of rejection, and quietly took root in the dragon blood mystic realm. Seeing this, the grandfather and grandson both wiped their sweat. The decision to transplant like this was indeed a major risk. If the transplantation failed, they would likely have lost the 8 unripe god-tempering fruits, and it would have been a total loss. But fortunately, the outcome was perfect. Both god-tempering fruits and the god-tempering fruit tree were saved, and moving forward, the intermediate rank spirit earth could also be effective for both the god-tempering fruit tree and the dragon blood trees, a truly triple blessing. Once they confirmed the transplantation was indeed successful, the two did not stay longer in the mystic realm, quickly returning through the entrance to the cave space and then immediately heading toward the cave entrance without delay. All matters concerning the divine tempering fruit tree had been resolved. Now, the only thing left for them to do was to ensure their safety and return to the stronghold 3,000 miles away unscathed. Under Song Chi's control, the Void Assassin clan soldier figurines marked with the brainwave beacon were the first to break through the spatial isolation screen. A moment later, Song Kai shook his head. No danger detected. So, the two of them quickly left the underground cave space and returned to the clan stronghold aboard the Furious Lion without any issues. Seeing how the kilometer-long warship Furious Lion returned with ease from enemy-controlled territory without any detection by the Soul Spirit clan, Song Kai immediately entertained the idea of acquiring a component similar to the Void Membrane. At times, such a component would indeed be quite useful, especially for him who had some special plans in Minda Kongchong required such a component even more. Besides the parts that could hide their presence, they also needed to acquire a sound shielding component, which would greatly assist his subsequent actions. Upon returning to the stronghold, Song Mingsong quietly advised Song Kai. Little Kai, once the 8 divine tempering fruits mature, you should acquire half of them. In the future, you will also receive 1 fruit per cycle from the divine tempering fruit tree. Additionally, be cautious during patrols. Once the Soul Spirit clan notices the situation in the underground cave space, they'll likely launch an attack. Inside the Kongchong, in the underground battleship summoning room of the stronghold. Do you know of any divine soul resource veins that your kin are unaware of? In front of the main control platform, Song Kai was communicating with 2 third-rank members of the Soul Spirit clan through mind induction. Though the Soul Spirit clan were the rulers of the Soul Spirit floating land and possessed many third-rank members, strictly speaking, they belonged to the highest tier of level 3 Starry Sea civilizations among the lower-level civilizations. However, since they followed a path beyond the ordinary and had not developed starships or celestial boats for Starry Sea navigation, they remained confined to the interior of the Soul Spirit floating land and had not yet communicated with the outside Starry Sea. Saying all this, Song Chi's point was clear. These Soul Spirit clansmen didn't even understand the common language of the Starry Sea, making it difficult for both parties to communicate verbally. As for his clan, the first direct lineage had been researching the Soul Spirit clan for nearly 30 years and had already developed a translation device specifically designed for them. However, it cost 500 merit points each, and Song Kai naturally didn't want to spend the money unnecessarily. With the Bridge of the Mind feature granted by the enslavement medal, they could convey messages directly through thoughts, fully understanding each other's intentions without the need for verbal dialogue. While he was questioning the 2 third-rank members of the Soul Spirit clan, Song Kai opened the temporary Torch Bureau local network of the Soul Spirit floating land and typed in Warship Stealth and Sound Shielding as keywords before searching. Soon, multiple messages popped up, but the results were less than satisfactory. The message posts were mostly seeking purchases, evidencing that many people had recognized the great value of the territories still under the control of the Soul Spirit clan. Disappointed, Song Kai closed the messages one after another, but one of the third-rank Soul Spirit clan members soon offered him a pleasant surprise. An undiscovered intermediate-rank soulstone vein 1,000 miles west of the Melting Soul Mountain Range? Are you certain? Shifting his gaze from the Torch Network back to the third-rank member of the Soul Spirit clan on his left, Song Chi's eyes went from the disappointment of a moment ago to the surprise of the present. An intermediate-rank soulstone vein, if it were true, would constitute a significant find. Although a single stone was worth only 3 merit points, the number of soulstones within a vein could be in the tens of thousands, and if it were a large-scale vein, the previous tens or even hundreds of millions were possible, undoubtedly a substantial resource. Certain, I discovered that vein half a year ago, because I was subsequently assigned to guard that cave space. I haven't yet reported it. However, I'm not sure about the exact reserves. Hearing this confirmed response, it was naturally impossible not to be excited. However, Song Kai didn't cease his current operations and instead opened the clan's market on the local network. If he wanted to ensure the acquisition of that intermediate-rank soulstone vein, the components for stealth and noise suppression were indeed indispensable. The Melting Soul Mountain Range's western foothills extend for 1,000 miles, and are still under the control of the Soul Spirit clan. Otherwise, the Song family members, with their various unique warship components, would have discovered and begun extensive mining of the soulstone veins that even the Soul Spirit clan hasn't found. And since that area is still under the control of the Soul Spirit clan, if we want to mine there without their knowledge, it's essential to have components for warship stealth and sound suppression. Not everywhere is like that cave space, with a special spatial separation screen that isolates it and prevents any commotion inside from attracting outside attention. This component isn't bad. Song Chi's eyes lit up as he found a suitable component in the family's exchange mall. Sonic Silence Field LV0 quality. Blue consumption. 500, usage, spectral energy points. Effect. Upon activation, it creates a silent space within a 50-meter radius centered on the warship, within which all noise made by specified energy levels will not produce any sound. Duration. 1 hour. Buffer. 48 hours up rank requirement. 5 strands of floating land origin. 0 rank. 500 spectral energy points. 5 life cores. 0 rank. Exchange price. 5,000 merit points. After thinking it over, Song Kai purchased the blue component. Although the 50-meter range was small, it was only LV0, and he assumed it could be further enhanced later on. As for not having enough merit points at the moment, he would just wait for the personnel responsible for delivery from the family merit hall to arrive and then offset the cost with the soulstones he had. According to the third-rank Soul Spirit clan, that intermediate-rank soulstone vein is at least a small one, and fully mining it would yield at least 30,000 intermediate-rank soulstones. How does that saying go? The investments now are for greater returns in the future. Without pausing his actions, Song Kai continued browsing the mall for another 10 minutes and eventually spent another 5,000 merit points on a void membrane component, just like the one his grandfather had on his warship. Whether the family can produce this item steadily is still unknown, but as far as Song Kai has seen, this has already appeared 4 or 5 times. The Song Family Merit Hall, the branch located in the Soul Spirit floating land. There's a new order from the southern region's Melting Soul Mountain Range area, from a second-rank clansman named Song Kai in the 10th direct vein, Void Membrane, and Sonic Silence Fielda who will go make the delivery. In the western region of the Soul Spirit floating land, within a 1-kilometer high mountain, the branch of the family merit hall was set up here. As the clansman responsible for sorting the order information spoke, the grand hall below buzzed with conversation. Then a first-rank delivery clansman spoke up. "I'll go, I'm also familiar with the southern region." But before he could finish speaking, he was suddenly interrupted by someone at the back of the hall. "Song Yan, did you just say Song Kai of the 10th direct vein?" The interrupted clansman was about to retort, but his angry expression instantly vanished when he turned around, replaced by respect. "Song Z. Why have you suddenly decided to make a trip to the southern region?" Indeed, the person who had interrupted was Song Z, born of one of the family's 2 major legitimate bloodlines, that of the land lineage. As the great-grandson of a fourth-rank clan elder and with his exceptional innate gift of purple fire, everyone tasked with this delivery knew that he was really just there as a formality. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been assigned to the Merit Hall subsidiary. All he needed to do was to be a nominal delivery man, without the need to actually make deliveries. Once the expedition was over, he would naturally be allocated a significant amount of divine soul-type resources. So, his unexpected offer took others in the Grand Hall by surprise. Song Zi responded with a smile, gazing calmly at Song Yan, the order sorter above him. Yes, Song Kai from the 10th direct vein in the southern region's melting soul mountain range. After speaking, Song Zi nodded lightly, his face revealing a pensive expression. Then he looked up and said, "I will go." Minutes later, discussions continued in the Great Hall of the mountain. What's gotten into him? A sudden whim? Who knows, maybe he just wanted to go out for a stroll. That too, being a fourth-rank clan elder's great-grandson, it's understandable he occasionally wants to prove himself. Still, I feel like it was hearing the name Song Kai that prompted Song Zi to react. In the melting Soul Mountain range, at the mountain stronghold, inside his personal cave, Song Kai sat cross-legged on a stone platform, with his hands resting on his knees, each palm clutching several egg-sized crystal stones. Deep within his mind, the mythical mech projection imprint blueprint, which hadn't been visualized in over 20 days, resurfaced. Indeed, he was attempting to visualize with the help of intermediate-rank soul stones. 10 minutes later, after the special soul power within the 4 intermediate-rank soul stones had been drained, Song Kai opened his eyes again and tossed the stones, now turned into ordinary rocks, aside. He then carefully felt his own spiritual strength. Soon, a look of joy crossed his face. As expected, my spiritual force has made progress. He pondered for a moment but soon began to sigh. Although there was indeed progress in his spiritual force, it wasn't significant. To break through the first stage of the ordinary thought state, he would likely need at least 100,000 intermediate-rank soul stones. Thinking this, his eyes grew resolute, and the intermediate-rank soul stone veins spoken of by the third-rank soul spirit clan seemed more essential than ever. Just as he was prepared to continue visualizing with the soul stones, the seed of torch in his mind suddenly quivered. Upon reconnection to the temporary torch network, he discovered that the family's delivery person was almost there. He had to abandon the thought of continuing his cultivation and wait until he was outside the base before summoning the Kongchang, which soared into the sky and reached thousands of kilometers above the vault of heaven. A few minutes later, a torch warship, also over 100 meters long, sped toward him, and after closing the distance to the Kongchang, the two warships established communication. Looking at the figure in the communication projection in front of him, surprise flickered in Song Chi's eyes, but he didn't show it. His impression of Song Zi from the Earth Pulse was still very vivid. After all, they had passed through the 30th floor of the Immortal Puppet Tower together. "Brother Song Zi, I hadn't expected it would be you personally delivering it. You have my thanks for the trouble." He didn't pretend not to recognize the other party. That would have been too deliberate. In the communication projection, Song Zi's face wore a smile. "We didn't have a chance to greet each other during the Immortal Puppet Tower challenge. Please don't take offense, Brother Kai." Hearing what the other said, Song Chi's mind gave a leap. He felt there was more to Song Zi's words than met the ear. However, before he could say anything else, the other party had already opened the warship's hatch, and a beam of tractive light shot out from it, bringing two components glowing with blue light floating toward the Kongchang. Seeing this, Song Kai repeated the operation, and having successfully received the two components into the Kongchang, he transferred over more than 3,000 intermediate-rank soul stones to offset the 10,000 merit points debt. After completing these two steps in the process, Song Kai had thought Song Zi would say something more, to probe whether he had indeed passed the 30th floor of the Immortal Puppet Tower, but unexpectedly, Song Zi never mentioned it. "Brother Kai, now that we've become acquainted, I'll come to visit when I have more time." After this abrupt remark, He turned the flagship around and quickly disappeared from the Kongchong's view. Song Kai. Not understanding the other's maneuver, Song Kai didn't bother to ponder it any longer. After returning to the base, he once again went into the underground battleship summoning room to start enhancing the two newly acquired blue components. Thanks to the Spirit Mechanism Synthesis platform, he currently had over 1,600 strands of second-rank floating land origin in hand, and since enhancing the two components didn't require titanium crystals, Song Kai enhanced both to LV-30 in one go. There's no need to mention the Sonic Silence Field component. After enhancing it to LV-30, its radius of silence increased from 50 meters to 10,000 meters. The duration went from 1 hour to 24 hours, and the buffer time was reduced to 15 hours. As for the Void Membrane component, Void Membrane LV-30. Quality. Blue feature. Void Stealth Consumption. 10,000 per use, Spectral Energy Points. Charge. 5 minutes. Buffer. 6 hours duration. 4 hours. Effect. Conceals the warship's whereabouts, priority 450. Up rank requirement. 8 strands of third rank floating land origin, 9,000 spectral energy points. Void Stealth. The warship gains special resistance to the void, ignoring certain levels of void cracks and the effects of the void gangland. Packing away the remaining strands of second rank floating land origin, Song Kai left the battleship summoning room. In the base's cavern, Song Kai explained to his grandfather that he needed to leave for a while, possibly for about half a month. Song Mingsong repeatedly asked several questions and only nodded in agreement after confirming that Song Kai had sufficient self-protection capabilities. At the western foot of the Melting Soul Mountain range, stretching westward along the mountains, the dense forest spans hundreds of miles, an environment where the Soul Spirit clan loves to conceal themselves. Just a few hundred meters low in the vault of heaven, a warship concealed under a thin layer of void membrane slowly moved forward. Despite having the LV-30, void membrane, component hiding it, Song Kai did not dare to make the Kongchong fly too fast. Instead, it advanced with the engines at their lowest power. It couldn't be helped. Although the void membrane could hide the ship's body, a warship's passage could expose more than just the ship itself, like the air currents and waves it generated. As for the roar of the engine, that, too, was shielded by the Sonic Silence Field component. Master, it's right below us. In the main control room, upon hearing the reminder from the third-rank Soul Spirit clan member behind him, Song Kai gradually brought the Kongchong to a halt. Instead of landing immediately, he had the ship's semi-intelligent system carefully examine the radar image generated by the Silver 3 Generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar on one side. After ascertaining that there were no biological energy fluctuations of second rank or higher within a kilometer range below, and the nearest second-tier biological energy fluctuation was tens of thousands of meters away, he then maneuvered the Kongchong to land. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The Kongchong's hatch door quickly opened. Taking advantage of the lasting duration of the Sonic Silence Field component, he swiftly released 3 Furious Tiger mining carts that had been pre-loaded onto the warship at the Ruins Market, initiating the drilling operation in the designated area. In the main control room, staring at the radar image on one side, Song Chi's brow furrowed. The Silver 3 Generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar did not show any special energy fluctuations underground. Logically speaking, if there really was an intermediate rank soulstone vein, his Orange Air Patrol radar should have detected it. That magic energy detection feature was no mere boast. It could detect the unique energy fluctuation frequencies of over 99% of mineral resources. Having this doubt, he was somewhat puzzled. In this case, there must be a problem with one of them. Either there were no intermediate rank soulstone veins deep underground and the enslaved third rank Soul Spirit clan member had made a mistake, or there was a problem with the Silver 3 Generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar. However, unable to pinpoint the exact reason in the short term, all he could do was wait. An hour later, The three furious Tiger mining carts that had dug hundreds of meters downward provided the final answer. 400 meters below the ground, there indeed lay an intermediate-rank soulstone vein, classified as medium-sized, with a preliminary estimate that the entire vein contained over 120,000 intermediate-rank soulstones. Upon hearing this news, naturally, Song Kai was extremely delighted. 120,000 intermediate-rank soulstones were equivalent to 360,000 family merit points. Once all were mined, he could use a few golden merits to enslave a third-rank thorned flying dragon when he got back home. Even though a third-rank Blackwater Zon snake in its mini-form was currently perched on his left shoulder, how could it compare to the flying dragon species, ranked at the pinnacle of the 4th tier in the bloodline spectrum? The memory of how this creature had gone limp in the face of an equal-tier thorned flying dragon still lingered vividly in his mind. While swiftly ordering the three furious Tiger mining carts to commence mining with their onboard intelligence, Song Kai shifted his gaze back to the Silver 3 Generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar. It was clear from this result that the problem lay with the orange radar, as it had failed to detect the existence of the intermediate-rank soulstone vein below. After contemplating for a while, Song Chi's mind flashed with various ideas and countless possibilities, pondering the reason for the malfunction of the Silver 3 Generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar. He remembered in that asteroid belt, even the minerals located inside the asteroids could be clearly detected by this magical energy detection radar. Why then did it fail today for this intermediate-rank soulstone vein? After a long period of doubt, Song Kai finally concluded the most probable possibility in his mind. Could it be because of the depth? In that asteroid belt earlier, it seemed that none of the resources detected were buried 400 meters deep inside an asteroid. In fact, not even 200 or 300 meters. At most, they were just over 100 meters deep. With this in mind, to confirm his speculation, Song Kai once again took out the remaining second-rank floating land origins and titanium crystals. Eventually, he spent 68 titanium crystals plus 215 strands of second-rank floating land origin plus nearly 5,000 terrastones to enhance the orange radar component to LV-30. Silver 3 Generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar LV-30. Quality: orange. A detection range: 1530 light hours. Precision: 800 up. Rank requirement: 15 strands of floating land origin. Third rank: 60,000 spectral energy points, 2,500 terrastones, 32 titanium crystals. Magic energy detection. Star chart collector. After entering an unfamiliar star domain, and after half an hour's collection, the Air Patrol radar will automatically generate a detailed star chart of 250 times the detection range. Without paying attention to the specific attribute changes of the Silver 3 Generation Ultrawave Magic Energy Detection Radar components after strengthening to LV-30, Song Kai immediately turned his gaze back to the radar screen in front of him. More specifically, his eyes landed on the detection prompt at the current position of the Kang Chong. Soon, his eyes lit up. The energy fluctuation messages shown by the Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar at LV-30 were clearly much more than those at LV-27. Right now, at the location of the Kang Chong, there was a brand new prompt. Upon a closer look, it was indeed the energy fluctuation prompt from the intermediate rank soulstone vein below. 426 meters directly below, a significant energy fluctuation detected, 99% identified as intermediate rank soulstones recently added to the mineral resource database, 1% other. Preliminary estimation indicates a medium vein, with more than 123,000 intermediate rank soulstones available for mining. After reading this message, Song Kai thought to himself, as expected. It wasn't that the Silver 3 Generation Ultrawave Magic Energy Detection Radar was malfunctioning. Rather, its magic energy detection feature also had a limit to its effectiveness, capable of detecting no more than 100 meters below the ground prior to being enhanced to the third rank. Now enhanced to the third rank, Song Kai estimated that its detection depth should have reached around 500 meters. Of course, this was in reference to the area within about 100,000 meters in radius centered on the Kangchong. Once beyond this distance, detection depth and accuracy would be reduced to a certain extent, and past 1 million meters, this reduction would become increasingly severe, not to mention the normal detection range of the Silver 3 generation ultra-wave magic energy detection radar, which extended beyond the range of 2 light moons. After pondering for a moment, Song Kai shifted his gaze to the previously unseen energy fluctuation message prompts on the radar screen ahead. 1,300 meters to the north, 200 meters underground, a slight energy fluctuation detected, 98% identified as lower-rank soulstone remnants recently added, 2% other, with an estimated 500 lower-rank soulstones mineable. 2,000 meters to the northwest, 310 meters below the surface, a slight 500 meters to the south. Having inspected each new prompt, Song Kai soon felt helpless as these newly detected energy fluctuations were mostly lower-rank soulstones or other common minerals, with a relatively low overall value. Had there been ample time, slow mining endeavors could have been considered, but under the current circumstances, it wasn't worth going to great lengths. The area was still under the control of the Soul Spirit clan. Even with the means of a stealth warship and sound shielding, every mining operation still involved considerable risk. As for after all the Soul Spirit clan members in this Soul Spirit floating land were cleared out, by then Song Kai probably wouldn't have involved himself any longer. According to what his grandfather and his elder uncle had said, once every member of the Soul Spirit clan on this floating land was eliminated, or even without a full cleanup, just a sufficient weakening of the origin core of the floating land. A weakening enough to support the entry of the 2 fourth-ranked clan elders of the Song family, with their full strength, from beyond the floating land. By then, the expedition mission would essentially be over, and all participants would receive withdrawal notifications from the first direct lineage immediately. There's no doubt about it, because it's inevitable. This can be inferred from the fact that no other fourth-ranked clan elder has been dispatched by the family from the beginning to the end. Once the mission concludes, this Soul Spirit floating land will quickly become the private domain of the first direct lineage. Of course, it doesn't mean that other branches of the Song family will no longer be able to come to this Soul Spirit floating land in the future. It just won't be free anymore, and there will likely be strict limits on the quantity of divine soul resources collected each time here. So Song Chi's plan was straightforward. Take advantage of this limited time and make the most of the magic energy detection feature of the Silver 3 generation ultra-wave magic energy detection radar to mine more resource veins. Therefore, those low-value, time-consuming micro and small veins were naturally not within his considerations. However, mining obviously requires locating these veins first. Thinking so, Song Kai activated the semi-automatic ship-borne AI to check each new prompt that had appeared within 100,000 meters radius of Kangchong, while he quickly formulated a plan. To find these veins, there were 2 simple methods. The first was to obtain the vein distribution map recorded over the years by the first direct lineage. However, that was clearly impossible. The divine soul-type veins found and marked by the first direct lineage would surely be guarded by their own people. How could they let him stealthily mine them? So the only practical method was to pilot the Kangchong and wander around various territories himself, allowing the Silver 3 generation ultra-wave magic energy detection radar to carry out field detection. This would be time-consuming, but once a suitable vein was found, it would be a simple matter to eat one's fill, even if one couldn't become full in one gulp. With determination in his mind, Song Kai decided to proceed with the plan. Deep under the earth, more than 400 meters down, 3 furious tiger mining carts were working at full speed. With their progress, it would take at most 7 to 8 days to mine out the entire soulstone vein. Yet Song Kai wasn't satisfied and had the 3 furious tiger mining carts pause briefly. He then took the Kangchong back to the ruins market and brought out 2 more furious tiger mining carts. With 5 furious tiger mining carts working simultaneously, efficiency improved by a substantial margin. It wasn't that he didn't want to put more mining carts to work. With an increasingly ample supply of resources and having broken through 1,000,000 points in zero-rank floating land origin, he now had more than 20 Furious Tiger mining carts stashed in the ruins market, aside from 2 standard interstellar civilian mining ships. However, the direction of that vein below only permits the simultaneous operation of 5 mining carts. As for the efficiency of 5 mining carts operating at the same time, Song Kai was actually quite satisfied. The only inevitable issue was that the Kang Chong could not leave during their operation because it was necessary to ensure the continuous effect of the sonic silence field component. Otherwise, even deep underground, hundreds of meters down, the noise generated by the mining operation would surely attract the attention of nearby creatures. Otherwise, Song Kai could entirely use the intermediate time to explore other places and search for other vein points. Why not call Little Yu over to help? Although Song Yu was weak, such a matter required no combat, only to be equipped with Void Membrane and Sonic Silence Field on the flagship. After some thought, Song Kai quickly shook his head. It was still too risky, after all. Even he himself could not ensure that they would definitely not be discovered by other Soul Spirit clans. If something unexpected happened after calling Song Yu over, he didn't even dare to think about the consequences. Having no other choice, Song Kai could only enter the ruins market to cultivate the guidance technique and also take the opportunity to continue the visualization of the mythical mech projection imprint blueprint with intermediate rank soul stones. Of course, when he was inside the ruins market, he would have 2 third-rank Soul Spirit clan members guard the Kang Chong outside. In case of any emergency, the 2 third-rank Soul Spirits would notify him the first time through mind induction. Time flew by quickly, and 5 days later, the intermediate-rank Soulstone vein below was successfully mined, and Song Kai ultimately harvested 124,700 intermediate-rank Soulstones. Once the mining was finished, he didn't linger, retracted the 5 Furious Tiger mining carts and hurried back without stopping. It wasn't that he was eager to return to the base, rather, he was preparing to greet his grandfather and then head directly to the Western region to embark on his previous exploration plan. The Western region was now completely under the control of his family, making it the safest place in this Soul Spirit floating land, naturally becoming Song Chi's first choice for exploration. While mostly all of the resource points marked by the first direct lineage that had not yet been mined were in this region, regardless of its size stretching over 1,000,000 kilometers, the first direct lineage couldn't possibly cover everything without omission. Besides, another reason he was eager to go to the Western region was that the time for his next exploration of the alien star domain was rapidly approaching, and for the clansmen participating in the floating land expedition tasks, their first choice landing zone for exploration was the Western region. Proceeding with caution, without any incidents along the way, Song Kai quickly arrived back within his family's front lines. At the mountain base, Song Mingsong was very happy to see Song Kai return safely, but before he could rejoice for long, what Song Kai said next caused his face to stiffen. "Going out again?" Song Mingsong's expression darkened, not too pleased. The Soul Spirit floating land was not entirely safe, and if possible, he naturally preferred to have the family members stay under his supervision to better ensure everyone's safety. At his side, Grandma Bai Shuken gave a glance. "Little Kai is going to the Western region, not the Central region or Eastern region. What are you worrying about so much for?" "Little Kai, don't mind your grandfather. Go ahead, just be extra careful on the road." Although she said so, Song Kai could still catch a thick worry in his grandma's eyes. He nodded solemnly and, under the watchful eyes of the two, left the base again and summoned Kang Chong to head west. As for why he didn't inform his grandparents about the vein detection and mining. Firstly, he couldn't be sure if he would definitely find other suitable resource points subsequently. If not, it would inevitably waste a lot of their time for no reason. Secondly, shortly after arriving at the Soul Spirit floating land, his grandma Bai Shuken's Sky Zither had already officially started the warship promotion mission, with the goal of killing third-rank Soul Spirits on the floating land with Grandpa's help to increase the promotion success rate of Sky Zither. The other third-rank Blackwater Zon snake in the cave space below had been handed over to Grandma by Grandpa, becoming part of the success rate for the promotion of Sky Zither. Therefore, it's unlikely they would have the time to assist him in mining those soulstone veins. Furthermore, they had clearly taken on patrol duties from the southern headquarters, and the base could not be left undefended. In the western region of the Soul Spirit floating land, hustling as quickly as possible, it took less than 20 minutes for the Kongchong to arrive. Afterward, Songhai activated the Void Membrane component and began a detailed exploration of the western region. The reason he used the Void Membrane component was that he feared the Kongchong's leisurely roaming over the western region would attract the attention of those from the first direct lineage. Another 2 days passed. In the southern region, within the Melting Soul mountain range, at the 10th Direct Vein Stronghold Cave. In the warship summoning room deep under the stronghold, Song Yu stood on the ghost energy cultivation platform within the flagship, cultivating the guidance technique with all his might. As the weakest member participating in the mission, the first-rank Song Yu, who had been following his second uncle, Song Hai, for over 20 days, was not allowed to act alone and had no opportunity to earn extra resources. This made Song Yu feel bored, so he spent most of his time cultivating the guidance technique. Just then, a strange sensation emerged from his forehead, as the seed of torch trembled unexpectedly several times. Sensing this movement, he stopped his cultivation of the guidance technique and quickly connected to the temporary Torch Bureau local network using the seed of torch. If he wasn't mistaken, someone was contacting him via the torch network. The next second, Song Yu's eyes lit up with joy. "Are you interested in a trip to the western region? I should mention, there's a benefit in it." Seeing the message was from Song Kai, Song Yu replied without a second thought. "Yes, but over here with Grandpa." "No worries, I've already spoken to Grandpa, Grandma, and your second uncle. You come out, I'll come pick you up." Traveling at full speed, it didn't take long to go from the western region to the southern region. To ensure Song Yu's safety, Song Kai still decided to make the trip personally. After more than 10 minutes, the two successfully met above the stronghold and then headed straight for the western region again. On the way, Song Kai gave Song Yu 2 brand new Void Membrane and Sonic Silence Field components, adding a remark. "These cost money, a total of 10,000 merit points, which will be deducted from your later earnings." Upon hearing this, instead of being disappointed, Song Yu was overjoyed. From Song Chi's words, it was clear that his personal share of the earnings in the upcoming actions would likely be well over 10,000 merit points. For him, still a first-rank torch ship captain, this was not a small profit at all. On the easternmost side of the western region, close to the central region, in a gorge, 2 warships equipped with Void Membrane components slowly descended. Through the warship's communication projection, Song Yu tentatively asked, "Fourth brother, are you sure there's a small intermediate-rank soulstone vein in this gorge?" Song Kai did not answer at length, simply nodding affirmatively. Indeed, during the last 2 days, he had discovered a small intermediate-rank soulstone vein in the western region. It's not that the entire western region was such a barren place, but rather that the actions of the first direct lineage were swift. Additionally, their ability to search for veins was not weak. Essentially, they had already discovered the more valuable veins first. Hurriedly dispatching 3 furious tiger mining carts from the warship, Song Kai admonished, "Xiao Yu, stay here and guard. Remember, as soon as the duration of that core barrier component passes, immediately stop the mining operations below until the cooldown is complete. That vein below should yield at least 30,000 intermediate-rank soulstones, and I'll give you 3,000 of them once we're done." Having said that, Song Kai controlled the Kongchong to soar into the sky and set off toward the southern region. The region he was going to explore next was the southern region, known for its rich mineral resources. Blue Blood Floating Continent, Shenlong Tribe. As usual, Shenlong Kai rose early from his bed, and after being served by the house servants and finishing his breakfast, he picked up his specially made long spear and headed to the tribal square. Today was the day of the tribe's induction ceremony for the new adults. The little ones in the tribe would soon be cutting off the heads of the savages outside the tribe as proof of their coming of age. As one of the respected second-rank elders in the tribe, Shenlong Kai was very popular. With his arrival, the square quickly erupted in warm cheers. Soon, the chieftain of the Shenlong tribe, master of 1,000 miles of territory, and already a second-rank peak Shenlong Yu, arrived amidst the expectations of the tribal people. All 12 second-rank clansmen of the tribe ascended the central sacrificial altar simultaneously. In the center of the altar, there was a huge cauldron placed over a fire pit, which now blazed with roaring flames. Inside the cauldron were piled up more than a dozen naked bodies, the most tender of the livestock raised in the tribe, sacrificed to the many ancestors of the Blue Blood clan of the Shenlong tribe. But just at that moment, a commotion suddenly arose from among the people in the tribe below, and everyone looked up toward the vault of heaven. They saw a strangely shaped colossal object, enveloped in pitch-black energy globes, oddly stretching across the sky right above the tribe. Indeed, it was the Kang Chong. This exploration into the alien star domain had brought the Kang Chong to this star domain. Originally, it was planned to go directly to the Ruins Market spatial anchor point in the asteroid belt, but it unexpectedly discovered this second-rank life floating land on the radar map generated by the Silver 3 generation superwave magic energy detection radar. Desperately in need of second-rank floating land origin, it naturally would not miss this opportunity. After all, with the combat power of the Kang Chong now, the creatures on a second-rank floating land posed virtually no threat to it. Upon transitioning to this floating land and learning some basic information about the Blue Blood floating continent, Song Chi's eyes filled with nothing but coldness and suppression. On this floating land, controlled by a race known as the Blue Blood clan which has 4 arms and humanoid bodies, they treated the humans on the floating land as livestock, brutally massacring them, taking cruelty and bloodshed to the extreme. As for this, although since awakening as a torch ship captain carrying the seed of torch, Song Kai was prepared psychologically. After all, there were not a few humans in the shattered starry sea, some living in dire straits. The textbooks used to say this about those humans. Although they belong to the human race, they have no ties with torchlight humanity, and can be treated as a familiar alien race without a twinge of conscience. Song Kai certainly understood this principle, but when he actually witnessed these humans being used as food and livestock right before his eyes, his heart still tasted bitterness. Without a word, the pure Yang sword beam cannon on the bow of the Kang Chong, already charged, suddenly erupted, sending a 100-meter sword light phantasm straight at the sacrificial altar below. Under the orange main cannon of the 3rd rank level, as expected, the Kang Chong soon received 12 strands of 1st rank floating land origin. Then, not even the 0 rank and 1st rank Blue Blood clan were spared by Song Kai as the electromagnetic ray cannon and cold light heavenly frost cannon continued to fire. A quarter of an hour later, the Shenlong tribe was no more. But it didn't end there. Spanning tens of thousands of kilometers, the Blue Blood floating continent naturally had more than one Blue Blood clan tribe. The Kang Chong was now speeding toward the next target tribe. In the main control room, handing over the controls of the warship to the semi-automatic onboard intelligence, Song Kai was intrigued by a pile of items before him. 200 strands of 2nd rank floating land origin, 1200 strands of 1st rank floating land origin. 13,200 strands of 0 rank floating land origin, 12 2nd rank life cores. 108 1st rank life cores, various common minerals such as gas mines, electrum, and purple copper. All these items were confiscated from the Shenlong tribe, and their total value wasn't high, with the main value lying in the 200 strands of 2nd rank floating land origin. However, Song Kai was not disappointed, as according to the radar map shown by the Silver 3 generation superwave magic energy detection radar, there were hundreds of Blue Blood clan tribes on this Blue Blood floating land. Although there weren't many tribes with 2nd rank Blue Blood clan members, as long as he could scour them all, he would still be able to provide himself with a significant amount of 2nd rank floating land origin. And so, the Kang Chong meandered through various regions of the Blue Blood floating land. One after another Blue Blood clan tribe was cleared out. A second-rank life floating land was not incapable of generating a floating land shield, but due to the origin core not being strong enough, it had to be stimulated by a technological product known as a floating land shield derivator. These Blue Blood clan members, still in the tribal era of civilization, naturally did not have this capability, which allowed the Kang Chong to act without restraint on this floating land. As for the boost from the origin rules, the boost from a second-rank life floating land's origin rules was very limited. Facing the Kang Chong with third-rank peak combat power, this boost was far from enough. Traveling along swiftly, Song Kai soon arrived above the last Blue Blood clan tribe on the Blue Blood floating continent. This tribe was the largest of the Blue Blood tribes on the continent, with over 100,000 members, and over 100 second-rank Blue Blood clan members. This was why Song Kai had saved it for last. Humming. The sword light phantasm hummed softly, startling many of the Blue Blood clan members below. When these Blue Blood clan members looked up and saw the 100-meter sword light phantasm in the sky above, a commotion quickly spread through the tribe. The sword light phantasm, condensed by the pure Yang sword beam cannon at the third-rank level, radiated true third-rank energy fluctuations, something utterly terrifying to the Blue Blood floating land natives, who at most had only second-rank existence. However, just as the pure Yang sword beam cannon was still charging and the sword light phantasm had not yet fully condensed, a giant Blue Blood clan member, over 5 meters tall, suddenly emerged from the stonehouse of the tribe's chieftain below. The moment Song Kai in the Kang Chong main control room saw this figure, he was mildly surprised, his eyes filled with astonishment. Is this already touching the threshold of third rank? For the current Kang Chong, third-rank creatures are not to be feared. There have already been quite a few third-rank peak creatures that have perished under its might. The reason for Song Chi's surprise was based on the Blue Blood floating land itself below. As is well known, under the premise of not plundering external resources, the level of the Starry Sea floating land itself, that is, the upper limit of the creatures nurtured on the floating land. Yet this Blue Blood floating land was clearly only second rank, but the Blue Blood clan member below had managed to break this limit and touch the threshold of third rank, which was evidently quite unusual. Of course, while such cases are extremely rare in the shattered Starry Sea, they are not non-existent. Generally speaking, creatures that can break through the limit of the floating land itself and surpass the rank of the floating land are without exception those with shocking talent and extraordinary genetic bloodlines. Such creatures, once they completely break free from their shackles, will soar as if they are dragons plunging into the sea, vaulting into the skies, and their future achievements will be boundless. Thinking this, Song Kai subconsciously shifted the muzzle of the pure Yang sword beam cannon. Boom! Soon, just like the other Blue Blood clan tribes, the largest tribe on this Blue Blood floating land also turned to ash under the fire of Kang Chong. On the tribe's altar, the 5-meter-tall Blue Blood clan member deliberately left alive by Song Kai had his eyes tightly closed, and had fallen into unconsciousness under the continuous attack of 2 secondary cannons, the electromagnetic ray cannon and the cold light heavenly frost cannon. Above the vault of heaven, the Kang Chong slowly descended and, upon reaching a certain altitude, Song Kai directly activated the enslavement metal component. That's right, he was going to enslave this Blue Blood clan member. He valued the individual's potential and was also considering the enslavement mark frenzy feature, which would need to be recharged in less than 8 months, so naturally, he had to prepare several suitable enslavement creatures. Considering this Blue Blood clan member's nearly third-rank strength, as long as he brought him to the Soul Spirit floating land, subsequently, it was likely that he could directly assault third rank, becoming a suitable vessel for the enslavement mark frenzy. As an enslavement mark descended from above and entered the body of this nearly third-rank Blue Blood clan member, within not even 2 seconds, he was successfully enslaved. No matter how high one's innate gifts might be, they were still not quite third rank, and before the red quality enslavement metal, there was no chance of resistance. With the successful enslavement, this nearly third-rank Blue Blood Clan member also woke up from his unconscious state. 2 minutes later, Song Kai learned some basic information about him. His name was Tuogu Hong, the chieftain of the Tuogu tribe below, naturally strong with immense power. Upon hearing this, Song Kai merely nodded lightly because the moment he successfully enslaved the individual, he had already obtained his specific attributes. Name: Tuogu Hong. Race: Blue Blood Clan. Age: 42. Natural ability: Blue Blood physique, Dragon Horse strength, Ancestral blessing. Remark: a once-in-a-millennium prodigy of the Blue Blood Clan, with astonishing potential. Upon seeing his attributes, to tell the truth, Song Kai was greatly shocked. 3 innate abilities. You must know that even the Thorned Flying Dragon, ranked at the 4th-tier peak in the Song family's genetic bloodline catalog, had only 3 innate abilities. And this Tuogu Hong was merely a lower life form born on a 2nd-rank floating land. Compared to the starting point of the Thorned Flying Dragon, calling him a genius with unbounded potential for the future was certainly not an overstatement. After thinking for a moment, while communicating with Tuogu Hong using mind induction, Song Kai maneuvered the Kongchong around the vicinity. By the time they returned to the airspace of the now destroyed Tuogu tribe, the Kongchong had already acquired more than 100 Blue Blood Clan members, sealed within cages. Song Chi's idea was simple. Since Tuogu Hong possessed such high innate gifts, he wanted to try to continue this excellent genetic lineage and cultivate a powerful clan. There was no need to reach the level of Tuogu Hong. If they could possess even half of his bloodline's power, that would definitely be a creature that could rank in the 3rd tier of the genetic lineage spectrum. If they really could cultivate such a creature, it would become an exclusive domesticated species for their 10th direct vein. Of course, this was just his idea. The specifics of the subsequent cultivation attempts didn't need his intervention. There were naturally people below who would carry out these tasks. Since their 10th direct vein had returned to the family for over 4 months, it was natural that there wasn't just their own household. Around Green Moon Lake, more than 1,000 people had already gathered, most of whom were the descendants of Grandpa's brothers and were directly related by blood. Therefore, Grandpa had incorporated them all into the 10th direct vein. Although there weren't many torch ship captains among these people, and their strength wasn't strong, they could still be entrusted with some of the miscellaneous affairs within the vein. While various ideas flickered through Song Chi's mind, Tuogu Hong, who had become nearly the height of an ordinary person under the size as you wish small feature, suddenly brought out a resource that greatly surprised him. A 3rd-rank floating land origin. Where did you get this, and how much more do you have? Indeed, what he had brought out was a cluster of 3rd-rank floating land origin. Although there were only 50 strands, it delighted Song Kai immensely. 3rd-rank floating land origin, strictly speaking, amounted to 20 strands of 2nd-rank floating land origin per strand, which meant that just the 50 strands in hand were equivalent to 1,000 strands of 2nd-rank floating land origin. And having obliterated so many Blue Blood Clan tribes, the total amount of 2nd-rank floating land origin he had gathered was only 1,400 strands, so naturally, he was pleased. Upon hearing Song Chi's question, Tuogu Hong responded with his thoughts. Replying to the master, this was left behind by the ancestors of the tribe. There isn't much left, with only 50 more strands in the tribe's secret vault. Song Chi's eyebrows rose. Secret vault. Upon hearing these 2 words, he felt a faint sense of fortune that if he hadn't kept Tuogu Hong before, he would have missed out on this so-called secret vault. According to the detection results from the Silver 3 generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar, there was no indication of any other high-energy fluctuations present. Clearly, either the secret vault mentioned by Tuogu Hong was buried deep underground, beyond the current LV-30 Magic Energy Detection Radar's range, or the vault had used some material to isolate energy, preventing the Magic Energy Detection Radar from detecting the specific energy fluctuations. Under the guidance of Tuogu Hong, Song Kai quickly found the answer. This so-called secret vault was not located underground but had used a large amount of magic suppression stone, a special material, to isolate the energy fluctuations inside and out, which is why the magic energy detection radar had failed to find it. Upon entering the vault, Tuogu Hong quickly fetched another 50 strands of third-rank floating land origin for Song Kai. After securing it, Song Kai began to survey this rather small vault. The vault occupied only a few dozen square meters, yet it housed quite a few stone platforms, and each platform had an item on it. What Song Kai was inspecting were these items. The things that the Tuogu tribe treasured enough to keep in their secret vault naturally held guaranteed value. With just a glance, he saw several materials of considerable value. For instance, the volcanic flame iron, valued at 10 strands of second-rank floating land origin per ton. Or the zircon, which would earn 1 golden merit point in the family merit hall. And a rare primary energy crystal. Although these were all of decent value, for the upgraded Kongchong and Song Kai, they could only be considered okay. What drew Song Chi's attention was a stone platform at the very back of the vault. On this platform lay a resource that ignited a fierce heat in his heart. Arriving at the innermost part of the secret repository, Song Chi's gaze never left the stone platform. If he was seeing correctly, the resources piled on this platform were exactly the titanium crystals he was currently in desperate need of. After strengthening the Silver 3 generation ultra-wave magic energy detection radar components, he had less than 120 titanium crystals left. Although he could acquire another 50 from the Ruins Market transactions the next day, it was still far from enough. Not to mention others, just the enhancement of the Pure Yang Swordbeam Cannon and Dark Matter Energy Shield Generator each required more than 30 titanium crystals to begin with. This meager amount of titanium crystals wouldn't support several enhancements. Come to think of it, how long had it been since these two components were enhanced to LV30? It seemed almost half a year now. During this long period, neither had been enhanced even once. Was it because he was unwilling to continue enhancing them? Of course not, it was because he lacked both titanium crystals and the third-rank floating land origin. If what he saw before him were indeed titanium crystals, then this would be like delivering coal in snowy weather. He picked up a luminous crystal from the stone platform and carefully examined it. A few seconds later, Song Kai turned his head with a joyful expression and asked Tuogu Hong, "Where did you obtain this ore from? Is there any more?" After careful identification, he was certain that the resources on this platform were titanium crystals, a strategic resource of the Torch human civilization. However, after counting them, the titanium crystals on the platform weren't many. There were just over 500, no more than 520. Adding it to what was left in his possession before, he had exactly 630 titanium crystals. Hearing his question, Tuogu Hong immediately replied, but the answer made Song Kai sigh. According to him, these titanium crystals were also left by the ancestors of the Tuogu tribe. It seemed that hundreds of years ago, they accidentally discovered a titanium crystal vein. Realizing that this resource was quite extraordinary, even though they did not know its specific use, the elders of the Tuogu tribe still stored it in the secret repository, preserving it until today. The only issue was that the vein they had found back then was a remnant deposit, just like the one discovered around Wanbai Tower's fragment belt. However, it produced even fewer titanium crystals, just over 600. For hundreds of years, the weaponsmiths of the Tuogu tribe had been trying to explore the functions of titanium crystals, taking some sporadically, so in the end only this much was left. Suppressing the disappointment in his heart, Song Kai turned back, his face regaining the joyful expression. Regardless, the unexpected acquisition of more than 500 titanium crystals was definitely a pleasant surprise and certainly nothing to be disappointed about. With a light wave of his hand, the tool person Zhao Lei appeared out of nowhere. Following Song Chi's commands, Zhao Lei activated his mana to open the storage bag at his waist. Within a few minutes, all sorts of resources within the entire secret repository were collected into the storage bag, to Tuogu Hong's amazement. Above the Tuogu tribe's territory, the Kang Chong soared out, quickly vanishing into the sky. As time passed, every region of the blue blood floating continent bore the marks of the Kang Chong's presence, yet Song Kai didn't rush to leave the floating land. After all, it was a second-rank floating land. Even though its blue blood clan had been wiped out, the remaining value of the floating land was not insignificant. For example, the various potential mineral resources, rare biological resources, and the floating land origin core deep underground all held considerable value. At the moment, what Kang Chong was detecting were the mineral resources of this blue blood floating continent. Since a titanium crystal vein had previously been present, Song Kai still held great expectations. As for biological resources, so far, Song Kai hadn't found any high-potential creatures worth focusing on besides Tuogu Hong. And the floating land origin core? It's the key that absorbs external cosmic energy and autonomously cycles to derive the floating land origin. It's the most valuable part of a floating land origin. However, this is not something he could currently covet. Except for the origin core fusion bodies that had not fully evolved, all fully formed origin cores are completely fused with their floating lands. Separating them from the floating land itself is tremendously difficult. It requires a high-ranked creature much higher than the level of the floating land itself to take action. To extract the origin core of a second-rank floating land, at least a fourth-rank torch ship captain would need to intervene using special methods to detach and take it away. In the Kangchong main control room, Song Kai delegated the task of reviewing the various energy wave fluctuations encountered along the way to the semi-automatic shipboard AI, while he himself controlled the warship, with a divided spiritual focus on several shipboard components. Having recently acquired more than 500 titanium crystals, 1,400 strands of second-rank floating land origin, and 100 strands of third-rank floating land origin, it was natural to proceed with a new round of enhancement for Kangchong. This time, he didn't overlook the several orange and red components on the warship. His gaze shifted among these four components for a moment, finally settling on the Pure Yang sword beam cannon. The enslavement medal didn't need much discussion. Unless he could enhance it to fourth rank in one go, there was no point in considering it for now, given the limited benefits. The dark matter energy shield generator was dismissed for the time being because it was ineffective against the divine soul-type attacks of the Soul Spirit clan. As for the Void Assassin clan soldier figurine tree, it was simply adequate for now. But speaking of the Pure Yang sword beam cannon, this main cannon was currently at LV-30, and when facing ordinary third-rank creatures, its damage was beyond question. Basically, 2 shots would do the job. However, during the previous attack on the nearly 4th-rank floating land origin rule-boosted 3rd-rank Chimera, it was obviously somewhat lacking in firepower. Song Kai could understand. Although it was an orange-quality main cannon, after all, it was merely enhanced to LV-30, just barely stepping into the 3rd-rank threshold, while each of those 3rd-rank Chimeras was bolstered by nearly 4th-rank floating land origin rules, each with a combat power exceeding the peak of the 3rd rank.